Hi, my name is Carrie Settles, and the title of my project is Impact of a STEM Unit on Environmental Literacy in High School Students. The reason I chose this topic, it's one of the grand challenges for engineering, as we discuss quite often about solar energy in my class and why we need to make solar energy more economical. Because we discuss how a sustainable future depends on our ability to help students understand the key interrelationships between themselves and the world they live in, and then how well we can help our students develop the critical thinking abilities and problem solving skills that they're going to need to enact this critical global environmental reform. The research questions are: is there a significant difference in the environmental attitudes of AP Environmental Science students that completed a STEM unit utilizing new solar array and probeware and advanced placement environmental science students that did not complete a STEM unit utilizing the new solar array and probeware? And then I wanted to know specifically from those students who did participate in the STEM unit, what are some of the behavior and attitudes that result from completing the STEM unit? And then what activities in the STEM unit have the greatest impact on students' environmental literacy, attitudes, and behaviors? So who it impacts are my students at Brookwood High School, because the purpose of the study is we're going to investigate the effects of this new unit on the solar energy in my high school AP Environmental Science class. But we are designing this, I am designing this with STEM principles in mind and focusing in on using all four quadrants of the STEM education in conjunction with each other. So we are going to be learning about and by the way, that's a picture of our new solar array and my students gathered around it. But we are using the science, the technology. Technology component is going to be the probeware that I borrowed from a neighboring high school. Engineering is when they're going to design their own little solar array using mashed up berries that have photosynthetic, obviously, properties, absorbing light, and trying to create their own electricity from that. And then the math that comes from the probeware and analyzing the data that they get from their probes and how much what they get from their kilowatts, how much kilowatts energy that they generate. The types of data that I collected. For the first research question, I wanted to know, if the STEM unit had any impact on their environmental attitude, environmental behavior, environmental literacy. I use those all interchangeably; they're synonymous. So I gave them, using a Google form, a survey, the NEP survey, which is New Ecological Paradigm, and it's a survey developed by Dr. Dunlap at Oklahoma University, and he gave me specific permission to use it. And what I did is I put it on a Google form and had my two AP Environmental Science classes take the survey on their cell phones after we completed the unit. And my colleague, who teaches two AP Environmental Science classes, gave it to her students. I said two. She teaches three AP Environmental students. She gave them the survey as well, and I compared the data of their environmental attitudes to the data from my students' environmental attitudes. Now, that was for research question 1. For research question 2, I took student volunteers. Well, I selected them, but they didn't have to participate. They did not want to. And I did focus group interviews. So this was an action research study because I was actually I was trying to test the effectiveness of a unit I was actually using. So some of the parts of an action research study say that you collaborate with colleagues and that you reflect on your unit, and you're trying to find best practice for this unit. So I really wanted to dig deep and have these interviews with my students to figure out what it was specifically about the unit they liked, because I did incorporate quite a few things that are new for us this year that my colleague did not. But she still did the alternative energy unit. And we always watch a documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car, and they watch that instead of using this probes and using the software from the solar array. So they still had a lot to help them with their environmental literacy as well. However, I say that just to tell you that if you see the results from the research question 1, running the analysis from the surveys, you'll see that the non-STEM APE students over here, they had a mean of 3.48, whereas the APES students that did do the STEM unit, they had 3.69. So it was a higher overall mean for doing the STEM unit. But I thought what was particularly interesting, let me go back one more, is that the higher the score, the higher your environmental literacy, that's another word for environmental awareness. The higher it is, the more higher, the more ecologically friendly you are. So you'll see that 52.02 was the non-STEM unit and 55.42. Well, it's not a statistical significance at the 5% mark, but to me it's still important the fact that it did go up some. So if it were I know it's not statistically significant, but in my eyes, hey, that's higher. So I would, and they enjoyed the probeware. If I had just used this quantitative data, I probably would not want to spend money and all the time I've been writing for these grants to get probeware. But since I did the qualitative interviews, now I know for sure that I'm going to continue with the grants for these probewares. So this was the results, and I got a lot of information from the interviews and specifically what they liked and enjoyed. And then in the future, basically, we can use this. If I could do this over again, I would want to do pre and post for my STEM students, and I think for the future, I would, like I said, go ahead and purchase the probes. I think it would be nice to use this study longitudinally and actually contact these students every few years while they're in college to see if the environmental changes have stayed or maintained, if not gotten higher, as they become college students in charge of their own destiny. Thank you for listening.